you don't have to niche and focus on maybe one industry completely, but niching down to things that make sense for you, to the types of people that you can communicate with, you can understand, and they can understand you. Everything I do really kind of revolves around building authority and trust in Google's eyes, or these AI bots. To build that trust and authority in Google's eyes, you got to be presenting your brand consistently all across the internet. People have to be speaking to you. You're giving them an easier message as to who you are and who you serve, and really defining your audience for them. So, your products, your services, and your audience are all defined by those entities that are included in your content and all your links across the ways.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, E-Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Brian, who is the Digital Marketing Director and co-founder at MAXPlaces Marketing with us. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Hey, Ranmay, thanks for having me on today. Glad to be here.
Lovely. Brian, before we jump in, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started? How is it going? How did you get started in the digital marketing space? And also a bit about your agency, what are your core offerings, and we will take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Brian Winum. I am a partner in MAXPlaces Marketing and also MaxPlaces Web Design. Same agency, we just branded different arms of the business, for our different core audiences. We have MaxPlaces for enterprise web design, and then we have MaxPlaces for marketing. And again, we focus on the enterprise end of things. So what really got me into this was my major in college was computer science and a focus in business management. So coming right out of college, I actually went to work in the insurance industry. I used to work for Geico for years and years and years until they got bought out. They went from public to private, and I took the money I got from my employee stock options and ended up moving into my own private insurance agency. And I did that for years until I sold that. I had a non-compete clause once I sold my agency, so I couldn't do that anymore, at least for the time being. So I leaned into my background in computer science and development and things like that. Went to work for a bunch of people, some friends of mine who were doing a lot of online directories. This was around 2005, 2006. Helped them build that business. Within a year or two, I met my current partners running MaxPlaces Web Design. They brought me on to help build up that business. And within a couple of years, they'd offered me a partnership there to really kind of take over. I've been with them ever since. MaxPlaces to MaxPlaces has been around for about 20 years at this point. We have a kind of our core competency, again, is kind of an enterprise SEO. We do a lot of manufacturing. We do aerospace, engineering. If it's anything else, it's going to be like multi-location type stuff, like multi-location doctor's offices or things like that. We don't do a lot of local stuff. It's really, we have some legacy clients that have been with us forever as a favor. But for the most part, it's really national and enterprise related stuff for both the web design end of things and also the marketing end of things. That's where I am. That's what I've been doing. I've been doing this in the agency end of things, almost 18 years now. Transition from insurance to marketing, to digital marketing. It's been a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. So, Brian, when you started your own agency, I mean, every founder has to go through this, right? You wear multiple hats. You're quite literally, you're selling, you're delivering, you're hiring, you're trying to create a team. And then, you're also ensuring that the finance, the books, everything is maintained. So how challenging was it the initial few weeks, few months, getting your first client and getting the business started, keeping the lights on?
Yeah, I had done that twice. Well, obviously in the insurance end of things, and then also in the marketing end of things as well. So when I first started in insurance, what actually helped me quite a bit was when I went to work for Geico right out of college, they make you start from the ground up. They make you start at the bottom. They weren't hiring anyone from the outside. So you had to start either in customer service or sales. So I started in customer service. It really taught me how to speak to people, how to talk to people, how to help them. And it really taught me to listen to people, figure out what they want. How can I help them? What can I do for them? And then after that, I was bumped up into an underwriting position, which was looking through spreadsheets, looking through facts and figures, doing my research, figuring out, decisions and strategies and things like that. So I really kind of had that foundation in place, at least for the fulfillment side of the business. Where I really kind of had to learn things was, like you said, the business end of things, hiring employees, firing employees, payroll, health insurance, and everything else. So it was a little, I've had my ups and downs. I made my mistakes. I hired the wrong people. I've, lost clients because of mistakes I had made and things like that. Kind of building my business, and I just learned every step along the way. But I had a foundation already from the insurance end of things. It kind of prepared me a little bit for the jumped into the marketing into things. It made it a lot easier for sure. I actually had that business experience already with managing employees, running a business, and everything else. So that was actually a little more seamless. It was kind of the opposite of the insurance industry, where insurance, I had to learn the business end of things. And then when I went to the digital marketing end of things, I really kind of had to learn the fulfillment end of things, how different strategies and techniques and everything else, kind of really teach myself from the ground up. I had the bare bones basics, but I really jumped into it both feet just to really learn SEO, to really learn PPC campaign management and everything else. So it's kind of two different ways I had to learn. Insurance was one thing where I had to learn the business fulfillment. And then when I jumped into marketing, it was the other end where I actually had to learn how to be a marketer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You have been in the game for so long, you would have interacted with so many clients, right?
Mhm.
I've seen so many campaigns, right? So looking back, what were some of the most expensive marketing mistakes you have seen businesses repeat, even at the senior levels?
So I was always against, because I thought I was going to be limiting myself by niching down to certain categories or things like that.
Hmm.
I thought going broad was always the way to go. And I don't know why, because in the insurance industry, I was really niched down to working with contractors, truckers, and things like that, like a few core industries, and it worked really well. But for some reason, I didn't take that same mentality with me when I came into the marketing end of things. Tried to go as broad as possible, and it just didn't work well until we really focused on what our core competencies were, the types of industries that we could really communicate with best and talk to them, and make sure we could deliver, kind of what we were promising on. So being able to niche down a little bit, you don't have to niche and focus on maybe one industry completely, but niching down to things that make sense for you, to the types of people that you can communicate with, you can understand, and they can understand you, was probably my biggest mistake coming out.
Hmm.
The other thing was undercharging. Just, starting real small with, 20 years ago, selling websites for 500-600 bucks and things like that. And just those clients just chewed up more time than the people that paid us, 10, 15, $20,000 websites. It was just terrible. So we learned to raise our prices accordingly to the services we were delivering, and niching down a little bit. It's like those are probably the two big things that we learned over time.
Absolutely. Like they say, niching down to scale up, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
you need to kind
Just
of
makes it
find.
easier to systematize everything moving forward from there.
Exactly. And plus, it gives you that space for becoming a specialist in what you're doing
Yeah,
versus being all over, right? So that
exactly.
makes, yeah. And moving on, AI has changed everything now when it comes to SEO, right?
For sure.
So based on the current SERP behavior, what do you think, which traditional SEO signals have lost influence faster than others?
What has lost? I'd probably lean into just the spammy tactics more so than anything else, you know? And what I'm seeing is, there's so much crossover between, traditional SEO, technical SEO, and everything else, and AI optimization. So
Mhm.
really, the kind of the spammy tactics, but it was that way in SEO anyway. Things were kind of losing steam over time with that. So it just became a matter of making sure your technical SEO was on point, which is obviously going to help with AI, making sure your off-page strategies were on point, and you were really preaching that kind of the things that were related to EAT, that expertise, experience, authority, and trust. I've kind of found I guess the strategies that didn't lean into EAT have kind of
Mhm.
really kind of fallen by the wayside. You didn't really kind of bake that into your strategies. Those are the ones that have kind of lost steam for me. So everything I do really kind of revolves around building authority and trust in Google's eyes or these AI bots' eyes. So if I'm
Yeah.
not doing that, I see it doesn't work as well.
Yeah. Yeah. These are the days of AI mediated search environment, so to say. So, what do you feel is the role of content consistency across platforms in trust formation?
So for sure, this goes back to, I guess let me give you a little background.
Yeah.
I do speak at some conferences all across the country in the industry, and I kind of built my reputation in the industry on building out Google News sites, getting sites approved for Google News years and years ago, teaching people how to do that. And
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff I learned then, even directly from the Google employees, kind of really stick out to me now. Just looking at the things that they were looking for to get approved for Google News. Like I said, baking in that authority and trust, making sure my authorship was on point, making sure the schema was in there, making sure that everything looked a part of a real news site really kind of plays into what I'm doing now. So I'm looking at things that they talked about in there, how news works and how search works. So they were really looking for things that were obviously were relevant, to be able to show up in Google News. You had to be, publishing relevant news. It had to be original reporting, and it had to be highly cited. So you had to be mentioned, your reporting, your articles had to be mentioned and cited by other news stories out there for Google to really pick you up and push you forward as a kind of a prominent source of news. So when I'm looking at those things, it kind of speaks to me like widespread coverage, frequent citations by other news stories. That speaks to me of authority backlinks and things like that. So the things that worked well in Google News work really well in traditional SEO and now in AI as well. So the things that they look for, the things that I actually learned from going back and forth and speaking with the Google News employees when I used to manually approve sites for Google News back in like 2017, 2018, 2019. I would get feedback from them and kind of internalize all that and build my strategies around that, which really gave me the idea to focus. I got to focus on this authority and trust, building that authority and trust, baking that into everything we do, every strategy we work on. So it all stems from Google News, everything I do moving forward. So that has to be consistent. So it's some of the things like making sure your NAP is consistent across the board in SEO was one of the things people always talked about. It's the same thing with your content out there. To build that trust and authority in Google's eyes, you got to be presenting your brand consistently all across the internet. People have to be speaking to you. They want to see that content, that relevant content on your web pages, but they want to see reviews from people who've gotten a benefit from those things, mentioning those services, mentioning those positive aspects of your review of your services, that you're actually providing solution to the problems and the questions that they have. And then you want that third party validation on other sites backing everything up. So you have your services, you have your products, you have all that relevant content on your website, but they want to see that third party validation that's consistent. It's consistently verifying that you're doing what you say you're doing. So your brand voice has to be consistent across all your different channels. You want everything to be kind of tie everything together and you need both from Google. Like this is the way it is. And no matter where you look, you're going to see the same message that we're putting out there. And people are talking about us in the same way, letting you know that we're delivering these services, these products in a manner consistent with how we're presenting ourselves.
Absolutely. And you touched upon building authority backlinks, which is very crucial and serves as a trust signal more so, in terms of, positioning on different AI and LLMs, because it gives those trust signals to the algorithm built at the back end for AI and LLMs.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of SEOs, they talk about link building not working anymore. So what is your general take on, building high quality backlinks?
So for me, it goes back to again what I learned at Google News, making sure that these links I'm building are really on authoritative websites. They look the
Yeah.
part, they feel the part, they have traffic, they're sending signals. I've learned to kind of create content that generates social signals, that generates the traffic back to the website, and kind of focusing on those types of sites. I really transitioned to a handful of certain content types that have worked really well for me lately, especially with the AI overviews. But it's always been, hey, it has to look the part, it has to feel the part, and it actually has to send traffic and everything else back to you. So I always made sure the authorship was on point. Um, the content was obviously relevant and spoke to what my products and services were, and just making sure that it actually was niche relevant and very authoritative. And there was, like anyone else, I would look at the domain authority, the backlinks, the traffic figures of where it's placing this content. But then I also worked on building out my own networks, which is I have control of everything now. My focus recently has been having control of my tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 stuff, and making sure that I control the schema on my tier 1, on my money stuff, obviously my money sites. I have my personal schema, my services schema, my FAQ schema, my whatever schema I want in there is obviously in place on my money sites, my client sites, my agency site, my own affiliate sites. I control my own tier 1 network for the most part. Again, I have schema on that kind of speaks to the schema on tier 1. Everything kind of matches up. It's the same entities and everything else. And then I have a network of tier 2 press release syndication networks, subdomain press release syndication networks that again have schema on them. So all my entities are called out on my money sites. Those same entities are in play on the schema on my tier 1. And then I'm syndicating via schema and then just basically creating an entity silo from tier 2 to tier 1 back to my money sites and just tying everything together that way, just making sure Google can see that the relationship between the keywords, the entities, the content, the relevancy, and everything else. That's kind of been my recipe lately. That's worked really well for us.
And what role do you feel, entity relationships and contextual relevance now play in visibility across AI powered SERPs?
It's super powerful. I mean, you're just giving Google bots and these AI platform bots the ability to more easily understand and kind of not necessarily pigeonhole you, but put you within the realm of where you want to be, the audience that you want to speak to. So if you're defining your entities, obviously on your site itself, then you can do that again on your tier one links, your tier two links. You're giving them an easier message as to who you are and who you serve and really defining your audience for them. So, your products, your services, and your audience are all defined by those entities that are included in your content and all your links across the way. So we want to make sure, well, again, consistency, just make sure everything's being provided to Google in a consistent manner.
Absolutely. Talking about, now we are in 2026. 2025 was a lot of, you know, uh, I should not say it chaos, but a lot of AI platforms mushrooming, right? Where do you think are we headed in 2026 with this AI evolution? How do you think it's shaping up the SEO space as we move forward?
So the obviously the SERPs are going to change themselves moving forward. I mean, the rise of AI overviews actually
Mhm.
demolished a lot of my clients' clicks and things like that. Their impressions were down, their clicks were down. It didn't necessarily mean their sales or their
Yeah.
visitors were down on the website. They were getting traffic from other sources, of course, but things definitely came into play where we kind of had to rethink how we were doing things and kind of feeding things to the LLMs in a different manner. And that goes to the content types that I was kind of focusing on. I switched the content types I was using to kind of create those authority backlinks, create that trust and credibility and consistency out there in my brand messaging and things like that. So for me, the big change has been the types of content I'm pushing out off page to support my on page stuff. The
Mhm.
SEO hasn't really changed much. I'm still focused on building that authority and trust, making sure all my entities in place. My on page is really dialed and tight. It's the off page that's really changed for me. And I think it's going to have to continue to do that to build that brand awareness, really focus on the brands and just making sure that Google can see us in a consistent manner. These AI bots can see us in a consistent manner all across the internet. The way I've been doing that is kind of leaning into things that a lot of people say don't work. I've tested otherwise. A couple things have worked really well for me. I know there's a lot of back and forth out there in the community about do LLMs text files even make a difference? Do they even get crawled? Are they pointless? It's useless. It's not even a widely accepted use as of right now. Whereas in the future it may be. But I kind of really leaned into it
Mhm.
a little deeper than most people have. I build out my LLMS text files to be completely custom. It's not just a glorified site map of who I am and what I'm doing. I'm
Mhm.
injecting custom header content that talks about who we are, what we do, leaning into the consistency of those entities and everything else. And
Yes.
in footer content, I'm actually pulling in all my authority and trust signals from offsite. I'm including my reviews. I'm including my press releases. I'm including my high authority backlinks and everything else and making sure that's in there in my LMS text files. I'm also creating niche down subdirectory files as well. So I'll have an LMS text file just for my services section for the individual services for my products. If it's an e-commerce, I'll have LMS text files just for the categories and things like that. So really niching down the files as well and tying them all together, creating custom site maps so Google and the AI bots can find all those different LLMS text files.
Mhm.
That's been really, really good for me. I'm actually seeing in my server logs them getting crawled, them getting hit, seeing these AI bots hit this stuff. So if I kind of left it as, let me compare it to using like Yoast or Rank Math and just pressing the button and have it push out the generic local business schema or the generic schema in there and just leaving it as is and hoping for the best. It's not going to work that way. You got to build out your schema the right way. You got to do the same thing with your LLMS text files. It's really kind of helped me focus and present myself as the solution to all the questions that my audience is asking me, the solutions they're looking for. That's all bolted into the LMS text file, and then I'm following it up off page with a bunch of different content types that kind of have really done it for me. What's helped a lot to control my brand messaging for myself or my clients is, everyone talks about the listicles. That's the first thing everyone talks about. Creating the listicles, the best of type listicles, naming yourself or your client at the top of the one, putting them out on the third-party sites. I've seen articles within the past couple of days about how those are getting hit if you're doing it on your own site, kind of those self-serving listicles, creating which never made sense to me. Why would I put a listicle on my own site, naming myself as the number one? I want to do it on a third-party site, so it's
Yeah.
outside validation. But those actually have worked quite a bit, those listicles. I'm also doing a lot of interview style articles. So either myself or my client is answering PAAs or FAQs in an interview style format. Those interviews being pushed out there. So it's in my brand name. I'm controlling my own messaging, and I'm answering those questions that my clients want to hear. So those interview style articles, expert roundups, again, positioning yourself as an expert, authority and trust in your field alongside other experts. And again, controlling your brand messaging, putting it out there in your own voice has been a big help. Industry research reports have been huge. So we've all seen these reports like, what is the outlook for the insurance industry from 2026 to 2030, and it goes through an entire research and forecast and everything else. So doing those types of reporting and including my brand mentions, my clients, and those types of reports has worked really well. And obviously just backing everything up with press releases just to making sure that it's as syndicated and spread as widely as can be. It's just basically making sure everything's consistent. The brand messaging is consistent across those different content types, and syndicating it, getting a name out there, getting people back to those articles. That's been my big thing. It's been the consistency in the messaging, the entity relationships. Those have been my two takeaways where I've really made a lot of headway in that AI optimization.
Lovely, Brian. This has been a brilliant, insightful session. But before we wrap this up, I would like to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're game for it.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Your last Google search.
My last Google search. Looking up information for one of my clients, their competitors. I was actually doing a Google search on snow melt services for a big client.
Lovely. Moving on, what did you do with your first paycheck of your life, Brian?
First paycheck in my life. I was a little kid, probably 12, making some money doing some landscaping. I think I probably went out and bought comic books or a Slurpee or something like that.
Okay. Favorite sport?
A baseball.
Okay. Going back in time, if you can change one thing in your professional career, what could that be? Or maybe in your agency, if you were to change one thing, if you had the power to do so.
Really kind of not necessarily hiring people who I thought had the background that I was necessarily looking for, but had the personality that I could see succeeding in the future and being able to learn from me and kind of really fit into the culture of what we were trying to build. So not necessarily just relying on, hey, they had the experience we're looking for, but they have the personality type that's going to fit in what we're looking for. That was kind of something that I really want to start from day one.
And, your favorite CEO or founder, who inspires you?
I don't necessarily have one, to tell you the truth. I think they're all a little weird, a little flaky. They all have their, especially in the whole Epstein world, they all have their skeletons in their closet. Really, honestly, anyone, I kind of lean more towards the people who have kind of built themselves from nothing, kind of started from ground zero. The people who have come to this country just built themselves up from nothing. They started with zero, came here with $100 in their pocket. Like, for example, one of my clients was Bola. They're they own gas stations. The founder came here with $100 in his pocket. Now he's a billionaire. So those are the kind of people I look up to.
Lovely, Brian. Thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. You have been a sport. And for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
So I'm always on Facebook or LinkedIn, Brian Winum, or they can reach out to me on my website, my personal website, brianwinum.com.
Okay. Lovely, Brian. Thanks once again, man. Cheers.
You got it, Remy. Thanks for having me on.